Good morning, children. So, before starting the second part or second story of the lost spring, let me tell you the story or the first part of Sahib Alam in short. The author comes across a boy, Sahib, every morning. She always found him searching for something in a heap of garbage. When he was asked why he did it, he replied, I have nothing else to do. She told him to go to the school, but there was no school in his neighborhood. She told him that she was going to start a school. Sahib was happy. He would go to her school, but she did not intend to start a school. Sahib's full name was Sahib Alam. It means the Lord of Universe. But the poor boy wandered on roads along with the other barefooted poor boys like him. The author talked to the other companions of Sahib. One of the barefooted boys said his mother would not bring his chappals down from the shelf. One of them was wearing shoes, though they did not match. Another boy, who never had footwear, wished he had a pair of shoes. Many children walk barefoot. Some people argue that lack of money is not the reason. It is a tradition to walk barefoot. But the author does not agree with them. She asserts that perpetual state of poverty is the real cause. Some children are lucky. Their prayers to get shoes have been granted. But the rag pickers remain barefoot. The rag pickers live in Simapuri. So the author went there. Simapuri is very close to Delhi, but there is a world of difference between the two. Like all other families of rag pickers, Sahib's family came from Bangladesh in 1971. They came there because their house and fields were destroyed. They had nothing to live on. About 10,000 rag pickers live in Simapuri. They live in mud structures with roofs of tin and tarpaulin. They lack all civic amenities like sewage and running water. Living in Simapuri enables them to cast their votes. They move about and pitch their tents wherever they can find food. Ragpicking is their sole means of earning a livelihood. Sahib used to stand outside a club. He watched two young men playing tennis. Tennis fascinated him. He wished to play tennis. Someone gave him a pair of discarded tennis shoes. Half of his dream came true. Of course, playing tennis was out of his reach. Sahib got a job at a tea stall. He was paid 800 rupees a month and all meals. Still, he was not happy. He lost his carefree look and his freedom. He was no longer his own master. So, this is the summary of your first story. Now, the second story. Let's start with the second story. I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. So, here the other boy, Mukesh, we are going to read a story of a boy, Mukesh. There is no link between these two stories. These two stories are totally independent. There is no link between them. Just the one common theme they have, it's there, and that is child labor. So here Anis Jung just met another boy whose name was Mukesh, and very proudly he says that he wants to become a motor mechanic. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town Firozabad, famous for its bangles. So his dream to become a motor mechanic seems to be Looms means unclear, just like a mirage. Mirage is a false appearance, as we see the false appearance in the desert. So his dream seems to be just mirage. Why? Because where he was living, that was in a small town of Firozabad, and Firozabad is famous for making bangles. Every other family in Firozabad is is engaged in making bangles. It is a center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. So India is famous, is the center of making the bangles, and Firozabad is the hub, is the so what he says that the generations, the families are involved in making bangles here, and generation have passed that the families just working in making bangles, working around the furnaces, welding glass and making bangles. Mukesh's family is among them. So Mukesh family was among one of them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures in dingy cells without air and light, that the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their day night hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Mark this line, this one, that they were just working in the high temperature and they just lose their eyesight or brightness of their eyes. So they were not aware that it is illegal for children like him need to work there in the glass furnaces and in the dingy cells, with the dark cell where there is no ventilation. And if this might be known, then Mukesh and 20,000 children like him can be taken out from this child labor, because before they become adult they just lose their eyesight, because they were working in a very dingy cell, very dark room. Mukesh eyes beam as he volunteers to take him home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. So Mukesh was very proudly, he he just said to Anis Jung when he took him to his house that really his house was rebuilt. We walked down stinging lanes choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state. So he says that when they were walking, the lanes were really stingy and they were choked with garbage, and most of the houses they have the crumbling walls, means very about to fall, it was shaking, and wobble doors were there and they don't have windows, and the families were living with humans and animals just like an ancient time. He stops at the door of one such house, bangs a wobbly iron door with his foot, and pushes it open. So, just like that, he just stopped at one of the house of such house, and he had just banged the very wobble, very shaking iron door with his foot, and he opens it. We enter a half-built shack. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. So when they entered, what they saw, that the one part of the house had a thatcher. Thatcher means the roof of dry grass. Okay, and under that, what they have seen, that a firewood stove was there, and on that a large vessel was there, and spinach leaves were just sizzling. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, are more chopped vegetables, and in a large aluminium platter, what she saw, that the chopped vegetables were there. A frail young woman, frail means weak young woman, was just cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with the smoke, she smiles. So her eyes were filled with smoke, okay, and she was smiling. She is the wife of Mukesh, elder brother. Not much older in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of three men, her husband, Mukesh, and their father. So that frail, weak young woman was not so much old. She was quite young, but then also she was commanded as Bahu or daughter-in-law, and she was in charge. She had to look after three men, that is her husband, Mukesh, their parent, and Mukesh brother. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face. So whenever Mukesh father just enters, okay, at that time the daughter-in-law used to just withdraw herself behind the broken wall, and she used to bring the veil closer to her face. As custom demands, daughter in daughters-in-law must veil their faces before male elders. In this case, the elder is an improvised bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his two sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of making bangles. Mark this line, that despite long years of hard labor till making bangles. So Mukesh father, though he had been working for so many years, first as a labor and then as a first as a tailor and then as a bangle maker, but he failed to renovate his house. He failed to send his two sons to school. And what he managed to do? He managed to just teach the art of making bangles. It is his karma, his destiny, says Mukesh grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles. Can a God given lineage ever be broken? She implies, born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles in the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. So what he says is Mukesh grandmother. Please mark this line. It is his karma, his destiny. So Mukesh grandmother, who had seen her own husband just lost his eyesight by working in a bangle industry. So what she considers that it is their destiny. It is their karma. They can't break this God given lineage. They can't break this God given lineage to them. That means the God has just make them born in such a family that they have to carry on this work. So he says that from childhood, a child sees just bangles everywhere, in every house, in the yard, in others' house also, and in every street of Firozabad. So from childhood only, it is their karma, it is their destiny that they are going to make bangles only when they are going to grown up. Spirals of bangles, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the seven colors of the rainbow, lie in molds in unkept yards. Unkept means untidy yards. So from the childhood they have sealed the spiral bangles of different colors, and they lie in the molds in untidy yards, are piled on four-wheeled hand carts pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town. And in the dark hutments, next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps, sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers, welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adult. So he says that they they just start doing the work in the dark room, in the dingy cells, and they sit near the flickering oil lamps. The young boys and girls or the children, they start just welding the pieces of colored glass into circles, so their eyes are more adjusted to dark than to the light, and so before they become adults they just lose their eyesight. Savita, a young girl in the drab pink dress, means dull. Drab means dull pink dress, sits alongside an elderly woman soldering pieces of glass. Soldering means here joining. This is another character, Savita, and she was just sitting near an elderly woman, and she was just joining the pieces of glass. As her hands move mechanically like the tongues of a machine, I wonder if she knows the sensitivity, means the pious of the bangles she helps make. So she was too young, and it Annie's Jung says that her hands were just working like the machine, like the tongues, and she wonders that the girl doesn't know the sacred or the pious or the holy reason of bangles, that why girls wear bangles. It symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag. Bangles is an Indian suhag, auspiciousness in marriage, and this is considered as a very holy, very sacred in marriages. It will dawn on her suddenly one day when her head is draped with a red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, and red bangles rolled onto her wrist. So she says that one day when she will just grow up and she will become the bride, when she is going to cover her head with a red veil, her hands uh, dyed red with henna, and at that time when she is going to wear the red bangle, she will come to know the sensitivity or the piousness of this bangle. She will then become a bride, like the old woman beside her who came one many years ago. He says that yes, just like the old woman who was just sitting beside her.